Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today in this video, we will configure remote management of Windows Server Docker host. So we will configure Docker engine to listen on a TCP port, and then we will try to connect to that Docker engine using our local Windows machine. And later in this video, we will also see how to make this connection secure using TLS certificates. So let's see how to do that. Hi guys, yeah. So first thing what we want to do is we want to start our Windows Server virtual machine. So yeah, all right. So here we have Oracle VM VirtualBox Manager, and as you can see, my Windows Server 2022 virtual machine is in powered off state. So yeah, first thing what we'll do, we'll try to turn it on, and then we will connect to it. So as you can see here, I am running my PowerShell as administrator, and I will run few commands to start this virtual machine. So the first command I will run is to list the virtual machines which are available on my machine. So I'll use vbox manage and then list VMs. And as you can see, it's giving me the output of the three virtual machines which are available on my machine. As you can see, first is CentOS, second is Ubuntu, and third is Vim 2022 VM01. So yeah, we want to start this Vim 2022 VM. So let's see how to start this. So we will run vbox manage and then start VM, and then I'll give the VM name Win 2022 VM01, and then I will type headless. So I want a headless start. So let's run this command. Oops, a mistake. Headless. Let's run this. And as you can see, it's saying waiting for VM to power on. And as you can see here in Oracle VM VirtualBox, this VM is starting and it's running. Perfect. So let's wait for a while and then we will try to connect to this virtual machine using RDP. All right, guys. So yeah, let's try to connect to our virtual machine. So I'll open remote desktop connection app from my computer. And as you can see, this is the name of my virtual machine, WinTM5JUOQIFOE. All right, and I'm connecting to this machine as administrator. So I'll click on connect and I'll click on connect. It's starting the remote connection. Let's wait. And it's giving me the certificate warning. I'll accept it. And there you go. So I am now connected to this virtual machine. Okay, so everything is looking perfect. Next, what I will do, I will start the PowerShell on my virtual machine. I'll click on this PowerShell button and I'll wait for PowerShell to come up. Yes, looking good. So as you can see, PowerShell session is up. Perfect. I'll quickly check the Docker status. So I'll check Docker info. And as you can see, finally I've got the output and Docker engine is running fine as it's giving me client and server information. I will close the server manager for now because I don't need it. Yeah, perfect. So yeah, looks good. Let's see. All right. So Docker is looking good. Everything is looking fine. So yeah, let's see what we want to do right now. Okay. So I will open this browser. All right, guys. So now we will search for Windows documentation. All right. So what I'll do, I'll search for Docker engine on Windows, and let's see what the output is. I will change the results to English. And yes, docs.microsoft doc. Yeah, so I will check the Microsoft documentation, and as you can see here, yeah, so we are here in this documentation website, and as you can see over here, it says you can configure Docker engine with a configuration file. All right, so this is the documentation which explains the configuration file. As you can see, there are a lot of options which you can configure, like authorization plugins, DNS, and then storage driver, and then labels, log driver, cluster store, then hosts, and then TLS certificates, etc. Yeah. So we will and oh yeah, as you can see here in this particular documentation here, it's saying that you can configure Docker engine to accept incoming connections on port 2375. So yeah, we will do this. We will try to configure this. All right. So let me copy this JSON. All right. And next thing what I want to do is I will come here on my Windows machines, and you can see here you need to make sure that you have this daemon.json file in your Windows machine. So this is the configuration file which you want, and it's giving us that this configuration file can be found at this particular location, and if it's not present then you can create it. So let's see. So what I'll do, I'll open I'll open Windows Explorer. There you go. And what I'll do, I'll go to this location. So C, and then program data. Yeah. And then you can go to Docker, and then you can go to config. And as you can see over here, I don't have this file called daemon.json. So see program data docker config daemon.json is not present. So yeah, we will create that file. So let's do that. What I'll do, I'll copy this path, and I'll do new item. Mm, and then I will specify this file name and press enter. And as you can see, it has created this daemon.json file for me. All right. So now let's edit this file. So what I'll do, notepad, and then provide the file name. So this is the file name. Perfect. And what I will do, I will copy this. All right. So yeah, I'll copy this JSON. So what this JSON is doing, this is the JSON file to configure your Docker engine. And using this JSON file, we are specifying these hosts. All right. And it will configure Docker engine to listen on this TCP host. So let's check by default what happens. What is the default configuration? So if you do Docker PS, sorry, yeah, uh, docker context ls. Let's run this command. And if you'll see this command, by default, if you see this Docker endpoint, it listens on a named pipe, n pipe. And okay, so this is the default behavior of Docker engine. And we are changing this behavior, okay, using this JSON configuration file. And when we will restart Docker engine after saving this file, Docker engine will then listen to this TCP port. Okay, so yeah, let's see how, so I have saved this JSON configuration file, and I will restart this Docker service. So I'll do restart service, and then I'll specify Docker. Let's wait for Docker service to restart. Yeah, so it says Docker engine is restarting. Okay, perfect. So let's check the service status. So I'll do get service Docker, and as you can see, Docker service is running. I'll do Docker info next, and okay, so it says error during connect. All right, the Docker client must be run in elevated. Okay, the system cannot find the file specified. All right, so our local Docker client fails to connect to this. Yeah, our Docker engine. All right, because we have changed the configuration for Docker to listen on TCP port. So if we will do Docker context ls, yes. Yeah. So our Docker CLI is currently configured to listen on a named pipe, but we have configured Docker engine to run on a TCP port, to expose it on TCP port. All right. So let's change this. So what I'll do, I'll also specify the named pipe here. All right. So what I'll do, I'll put comma here. Yeah. So it's an array. So I'll put comma here, and I'll specify another configuration, which is n pipe, and then I will specify slash slash. All right. So now using this configuration, Docker will listen on name pipe as well as this 2375 TCP port. So let me save this and let me restart. service docker. Okay, let's wait. Okay, perfect. So Docker service has restarted. Now let's check again. Let's see if our Docker info command works. And there you go. So Docker info command is now working and it's giving me client and server information. And as you can see here, a warning that our API is accessible on this 2375 port without encryption. So yeah, so it's giving us a warning that we have configured our daemon to listen on this TCP 2375 port, and this port is currently not secured. All right. So that's why we have this warning here. All right. Perfect. But yeah, let's test this and then we will try to protect this HTTP port, okay, using TLS certificates. So yeah, so for now we are good. We have configured our Docker engine to listen on this 2375 port. Now what we want to do, we want to open the port. Okay. So currently Windows has inbuilt firewall. Okay. So if we will try to connect to this port from our local machine, so if we'll try to connect to this 2375 port, it will not our this remote virtual machine will not allow that because firewall will block that connection. Okay, yeah. So let's test this connection. Okay. So we will try to see whether our local machine, like my Windows 10 machine, if I'll press this name. Yeah. So this is my local Windows 10 machine. I'm using PowerShell, and using this PowerShell, I will try to check whether I can connect to my Windows Server virtual machine on this 2375 port. Okay. So let's see if this port is open or not. So what I'll do testnet connection, and I'll specify the name of my virtual machine, which is this name, and then I will specify port, and then I will specify 2375. Okay, so this command will tell me whether the port is open towards this virtual machine or not. Okay, if not, then we will run some PowerShell commands. Using those PowerShell commands, we can open this firewall port inside our virtual machine. Okay, so I'm pretty sure this 2375 connection will fail, and as you can see, it's giving us this output that TCP connect to this machine. So this is IPv6 address, and then it's saying that this connection is failing. All right, so yeah, so what we'll do, we will configure the firewall rule. All right, so yeah, let's I have the command here. So if you'll see, if you'll click on this link, remote management of Windows Docker host, over here it has specified all the steps, and you can get, as you can see here, it says allow inbound connection through Windows firewall, and it has given this command to us. Okay, so yeah, we will run this command. So first I'll open the notepad, and then let's see this command. I'll paste this command. So as you can see, it's a new net firewall rule. Then it's saying this will be the display name, and this is the profile, and direction is inbound connection. Action is allow these connections. Protocol is TCP connections, and local port. So for now we are configuring it for 2375. All right. So I will specify this, and I will run this command inside my virtual machine in PowerShell. And as you can see, this firewall rule is now available. Now let's run this command again. Okay, so yeah, I will now run this testnet connection again, and let's see if it works. And there you go. As you can see, it's telling me that connection to this particular machine on this remote port is now working. So it's TCP connection is now working, is successful. Perfect. So perfect. So now we have done two things. We have configured our Docker daemon to listen on this 2375 port. And next, what we have done, we have opened this port on our Windows Server firewall. Perfect. Next, what I want to do, I'll connect to Docker engine running on this Windows Server using my local Windows 10 machine. Okay. So as you can see, I'm here on my local Windows 10 machine. If I'll do Docker PS, currently it's failing. Okay. So if I'll do Docker info, so it will give me the client information, but it will not give me server information because currently Docker is not running on my Windows machine. Okay, perfect. So let me start Docker first. So what I'll do, I'll start this Docker desktop, and we will wait for Docker desktop to start. Okay, so as you can see, Docker engine is starting. Let's wait. Perfect. So as you can see, if I type hostname, this is my local Windows 10 desktop. Okay, and I have started this Docker engine. No containers are running. So now if I do Docker info, it will give me information about Docker desktop, which is running on my Windows 10 machine. Perfect. So yeah, as you can see here, it's giving me information that this is your client information. Client, this is your Docker client, Docker CLI, and then it's giving me server information, and this particular server is, yeah, let's, so yeah, as you can see, currently the operating system type is Linux and operating system is Docker desktop. So it's currently connecting to a Docker engine which is running on, which is my Docker desktop. Perfect. Okay. So now what we want to do, we want to configure our Docker CLI to connect to this Docker engine running on my Windows machine. So yeah, let's see how to do that. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll run the context docker context command, so to check what is the context. So I'll do docker context ls, as you can see. Yeah, currently it's giving me two contexts, default context and then there's desktop Linux context, and this is currently it's running, it's connecting to default context, which is our Mobi, which is like our local Docker engine running on my Docker desktop running on my local machine. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll create a new context. Okay, and when I will create this new context, I will specify that connect to a Docker engine which is running on a TCP port on this machine. Okay, so let's see the command for that. So the, yeah, so the command for that is docker context create, and then this is the context name. I can give any name. So what I have currently, I have given it the name of the server, our virtual machine, and then I have given a description that this is Windows container node. Okay, and default orchestration is swarm orchestration. Okay, you can also omit that if you don't want to specify it, but I have specified the default orchestrator swarm. And the Docker host, this is the most important configuration, and as you can see here in the host, I have specified that this context, when you are using this context, then you need to connect to Docker engine which is running on Docker host in this TCP port. Okay, yeah, so it's currently defined as that you need to connect to a TCP port, which is this machine's TCP port 2375. Okay, so let's run this command and create the Docker context. So yeah, and as you can see, successfully created context. So we will do Docker context ls, and there you go. So we are currently using default context. Because of this star mark, I can tell you that current context is default, and there's a new context. Okay, so win-tm5, this is our virtual machine, and as you can see, container node is Windows container node, and Docker endpoint, as you can see, it's not npipe. Okay, the Docker endpoint is TCP port 2375 for my virtual machine. Perfect. So now what all we need to do is to switch the context. Okay, so let's run the command docker switch, and then I will give the context name. So which is not the, oh sorry, the context switch command is docker use. So docker use, and then I will give the context name, and then I will press enter. Okay, docker context, and then press enter. Let's check what is the command. Okay, yeah, so it's docker context use. Okay, docker context use, and then I'll specify the context name and press enter. Perfect. So it has given me this output. Let's check the context, docker context ls, and perfect. So as you can see, the star is now on this node, this context, which is my Windows virtual machine. It's now, it's not connecting to this default context anymore. Perfect. So let's do docker info, and now you will see that the server information has changed. Okay, so over here, if you'll see, the context, it shows that the client is currently connected to this context, and this is the server information. And over here, if you'll see, SOM is inactive and operating system type is Windows, and operating system is Windows Server 2022. So it's no longer connecting to Docker desktop. It's connecting to my Windows virtual machine on this 2375 TCP port. Okay, perfect. So let's do Docker images command. Let's run that and check images. And as you can see, it's now listing all the images which are available on my Windows Server virtual machine. One more thing I want to tell you is that this is a Docker API, all right? And we can make use of that Docker API. Okay, so let me run a simple URL. Okay, so yeah, what I'll do, I'll try to run this HTTP command or HTTP API. So what this is doing, it is connecting to an HTTP port on my Windows machine, this 2375 port. And what I'm specifying, this is the version of Docker API. And what this command will do, what this API endpoint will do, it will list all the images which are available on my virtual machine. So yeah, as you can see, uh, it is currently listing all the images and the SHA hash for that image on my virtual machine. So yeah, this is one another way to connect to Docker host. And yes, perfect. So this is looking good. Everything is fine. But currently, as you can see, if I run this Docker info command, it clearly shows me that this is dangerous, what we are doing right now. Okay. So currently our 2375 port is available without encryption. So it's available on HTTP, which is not recommended. Do not ever do this in production. Okay, this is good for testing, but you should never do this on production. So in production, what you'll do, you'll protect this HTTP port. All right. So yeah, let's see how to do that. Okay, so to protect an HTTP port, what you need is you need some certificates. Okay, you need a server certificate, and you need to configure Docker engine to make use of those certificates. All right, perfect. So we will now see how to configure this TLS connection on a secured HTTPS port. Okay, so yeah, let's see how to do that now. Perfect. So first thing what I'll do, I'll open git bash. Okay, yeah, because I want to run some commands which will use OpenSSL. All right. So you can use any software to create certificates. All right. So it's not a problem. But OpenSSL is like something which is like very widely used tool. Okay, and it's an open source tool, and it's not available on Windows. You can install it on Windows, but since I already have this git bash installed on my machine, I can use OpenSSH commands on git bash. Perfect. So first thing what I want to do, I want to open this git bash on a local machine folder. Okay, so what I'll do, I will open this I will go to a folder inside my Windows machine. Okay, yeah, so what I'll do, I'll create this folder. Okay, so I'll run mkdir and I will specify this path, and there you go, I'll cd into this path. Perfect. And I will run explorer to check. And yes, perfect. So now over here, what I'll do, I'll left click and I will I'll right click and I will click on this git bash here. So what this will do, it will give me a git bash session inside my folder. So now whatever commands I will run, all those commands will run inside this folder. So whatever files we will generate, all those files will be available inside this folder. Perfect. So now first step is like we need to generate a CA certificate. So what we will do, we will generate a CA private and public keys. Okay, perfect. So let's do that. So first command what I'll do, I'll run a command to generate a CA certificate and a private key. Okay, so yeah, so this is the first command. So winpty is required when you are running commands on git bash. Okay, so using this command, we can specify inputs. Okay, so this is important when you are running git bash on Windows. It's always a good practice to use winpty before any OpenSSL command. All right. So yeah, let's run this command. So this command will generate this CA key file. All right, perfect. So let's run this command and see what happens. Perfect. So it has generated this private key. Now it is asking me for a passphrase. So I'll give a passphrase. Perfect. So another time it's verifying. Looks good. So perfect. This command has run. Let's check what files are available. And as you can see, this certificate authority CA file is now available on my folder. Perfect. So first step is complete now. Okay. So next step is like uh, so we have generated a CA private key. So now next what we will do, we will generate a public key for this CA. Okay. So next command what I'll do, next command we will run to generate a public key for this certificate authority. Okay. So this is the OpenSSL command, and I'm specifying the number of days this public key will be valid, and I'm specifying that you need to generate this key using this private key and output the file as ca.pem. So let's run this command. Yeah, all right. So this is the command which will generate a public certificate, CA certificate for us. Okay, so let's run this command. Okay, so it's asking me for passphrase, and now it's asking me for country name. I'll leave it default. I'll not provide anything, not provide anything, not provide anything, leave it common name. Now this is something which we need to make sure is correct. Okay, so over here in common name you need to provide server fqdn. Okay, perfect. So here we will specify the name of our server virtual machine. Perfect. Email address I'll leave it blank, and perfect. Command has run fine, and as you can see we have CA private key and a CA certificate. Perfect. So now CA certificate is available. Our step 1 is complete. Now we will do the step 2. Now since I have a CA, we will need to create a server key and certificate signing request, CSR. Okay, so let's do that. So first I will create the server key. So I'll run the command to create a server key. Okay, so this is, yeah, CA key. This is for CA cert, and now I will generate a server key. Okay, and then server CSR. That is also we will do later. Okay, so now let me run a command. So what I want to do, I want to generate a server key. Okay, perfect. Let's run this command using git bash openssl. Perfect. So the key is available. Server. So now as you can see, 3 files are available. Perfect. Now next what we want to do, we want to generate a certificate signing request. Okay, so what is the CSR? When we generate this CSR file, using this CSR file, we send the CSR file to certificate authority. All right, and then certificate authority sends back a certificate after signing that certificate. Okay, so in order to sign a certificate authority needs a CSR file, which is called certificate signing request file. Okay, so over here you can see I'm using this OpenSSL command, and I'm specifying subject, and CN is common name. Okay, so when I'm generating my CSR file, you need to make sure that the common name is Windows Server name. Okay, where your Docker engine is running. Okay, perfect. And over here I'm specifying key as server key, and I'm specifying that output file should be server CSR. So this certificate signing request will use this key. Okay, so whenever we will send the certificate, whenever we will receive the certificate, that certificate will work against this key only. Okay, that certificate will not work against any other key. Perfect. So let's run this command to generate a certificate signing request file, CSR file, and let's wait for the output. And perfect. Now as you can see, our server CSR is available. Everything is looking good now. Now next step. So next we are going to sign the public key of our certificate with our certificate authority. Okay, so perfect. So this is the server CSR. All right. Perfect. So now what we want to do is we want to specify subject as an alternative name, SAN names. Okay. So we want to specify SAN names because we can connect using local IP address. Okay. We can connect using the IP address of our Windows server. Okay. And we can also connect using the host name of our Windows server. Okay. So I will specify this configuration file, CNF file first, and this is specifying the subject alternative name. Okay, and these are the DNS is my Windows server name. Then I can also use the IP address, private IP address. I can use the IP address of localhost, and then I can also use IP address, public IP address. So I want to specify this when I'm creating my certificate. Okay, so let's run this command. Perfect. So let's see. And our file ext file.cnf is available. Let's check the content. Perfect. So these are the alternate SAN names for our certificate. Good. So now our SAN certificate is available. Okay. Now, next thing also what we want to do, we want to set the Docker daemons key extended usage attributes to be used only for server authentication. All right. Yeah. So we will use this certificate for server authentication. So we will run another command. Okay. And using that command, we will specify that this particular certificate will only be used for server authentication. Okay. So yeah, let's run that and let's paste this command. Perfect. And now let's check the contents of our configuration file, ext file.cnf. And as you can see, now we have two things specified, SAN names and the usage. So this is only for server authentication. Perfect. So that this is the purpose of our certificate. Perfect. Next, we will need to generate the signed certificate. And for that, the command is really simple. So this is the command to generate a signed certificate. So over here, what doing is I'm using this CA certificate, and the CA key, and using these CA certificates, I'm signing. Okay, I'm using this server CSR sign request file, and I'm signing this, and I'm giving output this certificate. Okay, perfect. And I'm also making use of this CNF file. So when this certificate is created, these configurations are being taken care of. So let's run this command to generate our certificate. Perfect. So this will generate our server certificate. Okay. So since we are using the CA key, we will need to specify the passphrase. I will run the command. Okay, perfect. And as you can see, we have this new file server cert.pem. Perfect. So let's revise the steps. So first thing what we did, we created the certificate authority key, certificate authority certificate. Next, we created our server key. And then after that, we created the server signing request. Okay, CSR file using this key. And next we created the certificate, server cert. And this certificate is created by signing this CSR file using these certificate authority, CA certs. Perfect. Okay, now everything is good. Now, since we have all the necessary files, what we need to do next is, yeah, so, okay, so we have now server key, server certificate. Now we need to create a client key and client certificate. Okay, so yeah, so this server key and server certificate will be available, we will use it inside our virtual machine where Docker is running, and client key and client certificate we will use on a machine from where we want to connect. Okay, for example, in this case, we will connect from local machine, local Windows 10 machine, and we will connect to our Windows Server machine. So let's see how to do that. All right. So first I will generate our client key. Okay. So now, yeah, so server CSR, we now this was like server cert. Okay. Next is what we are doing. We are generating client key. So this is the command to generate a key. Okay. And as you can see, it's this same command as server key. It's just that the purpose of this key that we will use it on client machine. Okay, so let's run this command and generate the key. So press enter. And as you can see, my key.pem file is now available, which is my client key. Perfect. Now we will generate a client CSR file, certificate signing request for client machine. Okay. So we will generate this client CSR, and don't worry about these commands. I'll give all these commands in the description of the video. Perfect. So yeah, over here I will specify the client CSR, and I will use cn common name as client, and I will specify that I want to use this key file and I want to generate this CSR file. So let's run this command and generate our client certificate signing request. Okay, and let's see. Perfect. Client CSR is now available. Good. Next, what we want to do is again we want to create some configuration. Okay, so yeah, yes. So first thing what we want to do, we want to make sure, we want to specify that this particular client certificate which we are generating, we will use it for client authentication. So server certificate we used it for server authentication, client certificate we will use it for client authentication. So we will specify, we will run this command so that it generates the CNF file. Okay, let's verify this CNF file, client.cnf, and as you can see, extended key usage we have specified as client auth. So the purpose of our certificate is client authentication. Perfect, looking good. Now next is we will need to generate the signed certificate. Okay, so let's run this command. So since we have client CSR, now we can generate the client certificate. Client cert. Yeah, so as you can see, using this command what we are doing, so this is the we are we are generating this certificate file, client certificate file called cert.pem, and we are making use of our CA authority. Okay, so as you can see, server key we have generated is using this CA, and client key we are generating using this CA. So what is common for our server key and client key? Our CA is common. Okay, and that's why we will be able to make use of our client certificate to authenticate to this server. All right, so let's run this command and generate our client certificate. Perfect, let's run this command. Okay, so it's asking me for passphrase. I will give the passphrase. Good, let's run. And as you can see, this cert.pem file is now available. Perfect, everything is looking good. All right, now next thing what we want to do, since we have all our files available here. Yes, so as you can see, all our files are available here. Now we want to configure our virtual machine. Okay, so now we want to configure our Docker engine so that it uses these certificate files which we have generated. Okay, and using these certificate files, it will protect our port. Okay, so yeah, so first thing what I want to do, I want to change this port. So currently this host was listening to 2375, but since we are changing it to protected port, that port is usually the default protected port for Docker host is 2376, so we will make use of that. Okay, and next we want to specify a couple of other things for our Docker engine. So yeah, next time what we will do, next time Docker engine runs, so yes, so this TLS verify will make sure that if whatever client which is trying to connect to our host, it should verify. Okay, it should verify using TLS. Okay, and if TLS verification will fail, you won't be able to connect to our Docker engine. Perfect. Next, what we want to specify is we want to specify the TLS configuration. Perfect. So first thing is TLS CA cert. All right, so this is the CA certificate which we have generated. So what we will do, we will specify the location of the CA certificate. Then we are specifying the location of server certificate which we have generated, and next we are specifying location of server key. Okay, but these files are currently not present inside our machine, virtual machine. Okay, so what we will do, we will copy these files inside our virtual machine. Let's do that. Okay, so as you can see, what we want to copy, we want to copy CA certificate which is ca.pem, and then we want to copy server cert and server key. So let's copy that, ca.pem, and then yeah, server cert.pem, and then server key.pem. These three files are the files which we want to copy inside our Windows server. So as you can see, this is the location. So I will copy these files inside this location. So it's usually this is the location where you should copy your, CA verification files. Okay. So it's C program data Docker, and then I will create a new folder and I will specify the name certs.d. Okay. Perfect. So we have C program data Docker certs.d, and I will specify all these files here. Perfect. So this configuration is now looking good. Okay, so now what I'll do, I'll restart our Docker service Docker. Okay, let's do that. Failed to start the service. Okay, so there is some problem in our configuration. So let's see what is the problem. I will save this. TCP port 2376 TLS verified true. Yes. And then we have specified TLS CS certs. Okay. C program data Docker certs.d, and then CA server cert PAM, and then server key. Okay. All right. So this is the thing. I have a comma here. So this makes this JSON invalid. Okay. So I need to remove this comma. So yeah, these are the small things which you need to, you know, take care of whenever you are working with configuring this daemon using this JSON. Okay. Perfect. So yeah, I have fixed this JSON file now. Let's now restart service. Yeah, so if you have this invalid JSON, then your Docker service will fail to start. Okay, let's check the status of service. Get service Docker. And perfect, our Docker engine is running. Let's do the Docker info. And perfect. And now if you will see that warning is no longer coming. Okay, so that warning is gone, which was telling us that your Docker engine was running on an insecure port. Perfect. So this is looking good. One another thing which we need to do is we need to modify our security rule. Okay. Yeah. So currently firewall rule is we have configured firewall to listen or open the firewall port for 2375, but now we need to change it, and we need to make sure that it's 2376. Okay. So yeah, let's see advanced settings for our firewall, Windows Server firewall. And over here we will check the inbound rules. We only want to configure inbound connection, and this is our rule, Docker SSL inbound. So I'll double click here, and as you can see this is our rule, and I'll go to port protocol and port, and as you can see currently it's 2375, and I will change it to 2376 because our Docker engine is now listening on this 2376 port. I'll click on apply, I'll click on OK, and perfect. Yeah, perfect. So now we have configured our Windows Server Docker host. So yeah, let's see. Okay, so let's see. Now we will check let's test the TCP connection whether it's working or not. So test uh, connection, and then I'll specify the host name, and our host name is this, and then I'll specify port, and our port is 2376. Let's see. A parameter cannot be found. Test net connection, and then I need to, yeah, the command is test net connection. Yeah, let's make sure that this, yes, and then port is 2376. Yeah, let's see, and perfect. So now as you can see, this command tells us that you can connect to this computer on this port using your local machine. Perfect. So everything is looking good. So now what I want to do, I want to update my Docker context. Okay. Yes. So for that, um, yes, I want to update my Docker context. Perfect. But before that, do you remember that we have server certificates, but in order to connect to this client, this Docker host, we need to use our client certificates. Okay, so this time when we will specify our Docker context, we also need to specify the certificates which we need to use. Okay, so for that, what I want to do, I will use what I will do, I'll copy this ca.pem certificate file, and then I will use this .client certificate which we have created, and then we will also copy this key file. Okay, so these are the client configuration files which I will copy. And what I'll do, I will go to my user profile. Okay, yes. So currently my Docker user profile is, I'll go to users, and this is my username ASHIS. And over here, I'll go inside this Docker folder, and inside this Docker folder, I will paste my certificate files. So this is the CA certificate file, and then this is the server, this is my client certificate file, and this is my client key file, which I have generated for secure connection. So client files are inside my client machine, and server files are inside my server. Perfect. So since I have specified these, I have copied and pasted these files here. Now what I want to do, I want to update the Docker context. Okay. All right. Perfect. So update Docker context. So now over here, if you'll see, I'm updating this Docker context because we have already created this context. So now I'm updating this Docker context, and what I'm doing, I'm specifying this host TCP, and I'm changing it from 237.5 to 2376. And then I'm specifying that the CA certificate which you want to use is available on the user profile Docker, and this is the CA file. This is the location where you can find the CA file. So let's see if it where it resolves to. Okay, so I'll run this command, and yeah, so what I'll do echo, and I'll run this, and as you can see, it resolves to my C users Ashish folder. Okay, and we have copied these files over here. Okay, so this is exactly what I'm doing. I'm specifying the location that where to find the CA file, then I'm specifying location where to find the client certificate. So this cert file is available here, and then I'm specifying the location where to find the key file in the client machine. Perfect. So let's run this command to update the Docker context. Okay. So what I'll do, I'll run the PowerShell, and I will run this command. Perfect. And Docker context update, and I will run this. Let's wait. And as you can see, it has given me the information successfully updated the context. Perfect. So let's do the Docker context TLS. And as you can see, now our TCP port is 2376. Okay, so let's also check what exactly Docker does. Okay, so over here in this Docker folder, in your user ashish.docker folder, okay, in your user folder, you will see that there is a folder called context folder. Okay, and inside this context, we will go to TLS, and we will go to this file, and we'll go to Docker. And as you can see, it has created this particular context for you, and it has copied these files available. All right, so yeah, this is how context works. Okay, so this is how this context is working. So let's check this meta.json file. I will open it using notepad, and as you can see, this is the JSON file for my context, and this is the metadata. So the Docker endpoint is TCP 2376. So Docker is doing nothing but generating this files to to configure your context. All right, perfect. So Docker context is currently looking good. Let's see if we can connect to our host. So if I'll do Docker info and press enter. Perfect. So now as you can see, the warning is not coming, and now our connection to this Docker engine which is running on our Windows server is secure. So let's do Docker images, and this is coming up perfectly fine. So now you are like, now our connection to the Docker engine which is running on our virtual machine is perfectly fine. And now we, whatever command will run, okay, whatever Docker commands will run, it will run against that Docker engine which is running on our Windows server. So I can do Docker images, oops, Docker images to check the images which are available. I'll do Docker info to check the information. I'll do Docker, yeah, I'll also do Docker version to check the version. And as you can see right now, it's showing us the client version, and it is showing us the server version. Okay, and it is showing us this is the context for client, and server currently we are running to Windows operating system, and this is the version of Docker engine which is running on our Windows server. Perfect. So we can also switch the context. Let's say we want to connect back to our Docker engine which is running on our local machine, which is Docker desktop. So we'll do Docker context ls. And over here, if you'll see, yeah, so currently I'm connected to Windows Docker context. I'll switch it to default. So Docker context use and then default. Yeah. And let's verify this. So I'll do Docker context ls again. And as you can see now, our Docker client is pointing to this default context. Let's run that. So what I'll do Docker info, and now it will show me that currently the server, the Docker engine where we are connecting to is now Docker is operating system, Docker desktop, and operating system type is Linux. Okay, so now you have configured your local Windows 10 machine to work with Windows containers. All right, so yeah, uh, I think for now this is looking perfectly fine. So we have done pretty awesome stuff here. So we have seen how we can change the behavior of Docker engine using this daemon.json configuration file, and we have seen how we can expose Docker, Docker engine to listen on this host TCP port, and then we have also seen how we can connect to Docker engine using on that TCP port using the Docker client, and we have also secured our TCP port using the certificates. So yes, this is pretty much it for the video today, guys, and I really hope this will help you in some way. And if you like this video, do not forget to give me a thumbs up in YouTube. And I'm really looking forward for your comments. So feel free to post a comment, what you like, what you dislike, any sort of feedback, and if you want me to make videos on any specific technology. So I'm really looking forward for your feedback to grow this channel. And yeah, I have some awesome stuff planned for future, so do not forget to hit that subscribe button to get notified whenever a new video comes up. So yeah, looking forward to see you in upcoming videos.